Here's our good buddy, Jesse Rogers. He, of course, ESPN.com on the Cubs. They've been busy. Let's have a conversation. Jesse, it's always a pleasure. Nice to have you aboard. Is there a feeling in Chicago right now from Cub fans that when they really needed him to stick around, that Theo bailed on him? Or do people understand, hey, Theo did his job, won a championship. If he wants to leave, he's got to be right. Where do we stand with that first?
No, not too many people are disappointed he left. I think what you just said is right. I mean, if there was unfinished business, it'd be a different story. But they won the World Series. Yeah, maybe he didn't leave the team in the best of shape, buying for another one, on the verge of another one. But they won one. They still have a competitive team. They were in first place this year. They won the division again. It does need a rehaul, though, so a revamp, I guess you could call it, a retooling like the Yankees did a couple years ago, Chris. But no one's really upset at Theo for leaving. I mean, he kind of forecasted this a while ago. Yes, it's a year early, but nobody was really shocked by it.
And Hoyer, of course, got a big extension from the owners. So, and he's listen, he knows what he's doing. The team is in capable hands. I would think, though Theo stamps on a team when Hoyer is under him, I would think most Cub fans have plenty of confidence in their new president. Correct?
Yes. Jed Hoyer is very likable, right? But the difference is now he's in the hot seat, Chris. I mean, any good or bad move, Theo got the credit or the blame, right? A lot of credit over the last few years. Now there's tougher decisions to be had. So you could say that Theo did leave right before the toughest of all decisions. What do you do with Chris Bryant, Kyle Schwarber, Javi Baez, Anthony Rizzo, all up in a year? None of them signed a long-term deal. Several of them have to be tendered before 8 o'clock Eastern tonight. So the toughest decisions of the Theo-Jed era are to come, and Theo's gone. So it will be a hot seat, so to speak, for Jed Hoyer. But he's definitely capable. They were equal partners in this thing. Theo was just so good at articulating a message that I think everybody just looked to him every time the Cubs needed to speak. Now it's Jed's turn.
Well, they were equal partners, maybe, Jess, but it's Theo's going to the Hall of Fame based on his Cubs, not Hoyer. So he's still got to win without Theo there. Now, as far as the whole thing with Rizzo, I would think they're going to try to make him a Cub for life. I mean, he is what the Cubs have been about. He's been a good soldier there. Out of all the free agents to come, I would think that they would look to see if they get him signed long-term and make him a Cub for life. Is that in the cards at all or no?
No, I do think it's in the cards, but I don't think it's their urgent need. He's signed for one more year, could be a free agent. But Javi Baez is the centerpiece of this team right now. He's the shortstop. He does it all there. Didn't have a great 2020 like a lot of guys. So there are bigger concerns, I think, than Anthony Rizzo. He's over 30 years old. He might go year to year. I think it's more about, where are we going to win or who are we going to win with over the next 5 to 6 years. And Javi Baez is a guy they were talking about signing up before the pandemic hit, and now they've got to restart those negotiations. Again, Schwarber, Bryant, all up in a year. So you can't just focus on Anthony Rizzo. But I don't disagree. This is the captain of the team. He should be a Cub for life, but I don't think it's priority one for them.
All right, let's obviously go to the $64,000 question. I would be surprised. Listen, Lindor we know is going to get traded. I would not be surprised. But I would think right now will not be a Cub opening day. You buy that or no?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, unfortunately, for a lot of teams, but the Cubs are right in the middle of it, Chris. This offseason is about reducing payroll, then putting a World Series contender on the field come April, May, June. And Chris Bryant's going to make $20 million final year of his deal. Some injuries have piled up. The team's offense has stalled. So for a bunch of reasons, I think they're going to move him, payroll being probably number one, and you might see some other guys move as well. I mean, I don't want to say they're using the pandemic as an excuse, but ownership around the league is going to be able to use that as cover. Not that they didn't lose money. No fans. Of course they did. But they're going to reduce payroll one way or another, and Chris Bryant seems to be number one on that list to be able to do that.
And I would think Schwarber is not going to get will they offer. I think he's gone too. I'd be surprised if he's a Cub. I don't love him anyway. I used to love him, but he's so feast or famine. He's not a great outfielder. He's making $8 million. I would think Schwarber will have a new home next year too. I have that read right or no?
No, I think a lot of people think it's 50-50 if he gets tendered a contract tonight. I think he will. That's a valuable asset, left-handed power. But you're not wrong. I see a couple of those core players moving on. Now, it could be Wilson Contreras, who a lot of teams covet. makes a lot less. If the DH stays in the NL, maybe Schwarber does stay. So there's some moving parts there, Chris, that I don't think anybody knows for sure. That's why you can kick these things down the road a little bit. Look, if fans are allowed in Wrigley Field at 100% capacity April 1st, that changes their budget. Well, the longer you wait to make some of these decisions, the better, more information you'll have about next season. So, maybe you tender these guys a contract and you make a deal in January, early February. But I don't disagree with you. The core of this team is going to get moved for payroll. And the fact of the matter is, Chris, it is stalled. This offense has completely stalled, and it's the same guys essentially that won them a World Series. So changes are needed for several reasons, payroll and otherwise.
All right, Darvish, he's had a good year and a half. He was very good second half in 2019. He was obviously good this past year. He's got about, $60 million coming to him? It was a little less than that.
Yeah.
Where do we stand with Darvish? Will they try to trade him? They need somebody to pitch. What's your take there for a sec? Let me hear.
Well, to me, if you trade Darvish or Hendricks, it's not really a retooling. That's sort of a mini rebuild because you already have 3 open spots in your rotation. So if Hendricks and Darvish, you trade one of those, the most important part of your team is starting pitching. They're starting over. So unless they want to do a mini rebuild, I think Darvish and Hendricks are there, and they try to do that Yankees retool that I mentioned. But when you do a retool, Mad Dog, you better be right in your major decisions during that time frame you're doing it. For example, the Yankees, ironically, they trade Aroldis Chapman to the Cubs. Who do they get back? Gleyber Torres. How many years later did it take for the Yankees to contend? Almost immediately, about a year later. The Cubs need a trade like that. Chris Bryant, Craig Kimbrell, Wilson Contreras, trade one of those guys. You get back someone a year later who's helping you contend. But you can't miss on those type of deals. When you do a mini rebuild or a full-on rebuild, then you can just blanket the market. You sell off everybody. You bring back a bunch. If you miss a couple, that's okay. But when you're trying to retool, you can't make a mistake. And that's why I think Jed Hoyer really has some tough decisions to make if they want to contend as soon as 2022.
Excellent job there, Jess. We'll talk soon. Thanks for a few minutes. Keep up the good work. Appreciate you coming on.
You too, Chris. Happy holidays. Take care.